Sweeping in from downtown Rochester as well is Will Forsman, the co-owner and general manager of Café Steam. He's come in to show us some latte talent and tell us about his upcoming events. Let's start there. You do have a big friendly competition.
We absolutely do. So coming up this Friday, the 23rd, we are hosting a latte art throwdown, which for those who maybe aren't familiar with the concept is where baristas come together from whether it's a region, across the city to compete in who can make the best latte art. So the entry fee for that is $5, and really anybody can compete. You don't have to be a barista. We're also accepting of the home coffee aficionado. If you have a home espresso machine that you feel, you know, your confidence is very high in the latte art that you're able to produce, we welcome you to come down. And the end goal for this is not necessarily to have any animosity, but to bring those coffee shops together and be able to share and exchange in some fun and some lattes and maybe a little bit more.
Yeah, so maybe see, like you mentioned, some artistic talents. Is there, a design or something that maybe you have seen or that you have personally that might be your favorite one that you've done or have seen?
Yeah, I use kind of an old bag of tricks, and they're all, you get asked, well, can you do my face or can you do XYZ design? And unfortunately, we're not able to get quite as specific as that, but combining elements of various designs into one, and that provides that unique signature that each barista has. So for today's segment, we're going to be focusing on the stacked tulip, which is one of the more basic designs, but if done correctly, it can look just as beautiful as any of the more complex designs. And one of the things that we're going to be focusing on, at least for the judging portion, is contrast, symmetry, and complexity. And so those are really going to be the three elements that are combined to advance each contestant to the next round. So today we're working with a couple of things. Our Mood Enhancer Espresso Blend, which is provided by our sister company, Colorway Coffee Roasters. We're working on a small home espresso machine. It also works in a commercial model, but maybe a little bit larger than what folks may be working with at home. And then for our vendors, we are working with Capper's Big Red Barn, which is a local milk producer out of Chatfield, Minnesota. They're not only the producer of milk for each of our locations, but they're also one of the sponsors of this event for their sister company, Doorstep, which is a local delivery service in Rochester and within the region. So yeah, so we'll go ahead and get started for the home espresso aficionado or barista. The recipe that we're using for this is 19.5 grams in and 37 grams out. We're getting a little bit more in depth than what you might use for just your home coffee maker because especially under the circumstances of being under a lot of pressure, you can really influence a lot of the flavor components of espresso. So first we're going to start with brewing our espresso and then portioning out our milk.
So as that pours, talk a little bit about the event coming up. How did that kind of get started? And it seems like this has been an ongoing kind of thing.
Yeah, we had a latte art throwdown many years ago. Obviously, this was pre-COVID when larger events were happening, and that was a combination latte art throwdown and tattoo shop pop-up. So we worked with a local tattoo studio to do a tattoo shop right there in our brewery location inside of Thesis Beer Project at the time, and it turned out to be a really cool event. These are something that is common in the coffee industry and within coffee shops throughout the United States and the world, but we hadn't seen anything happen like that in Rochester, and we wanted to take it to the next level and, of course, introduce the tattoo shop element, which ended up being really cool. Right. But we haven't been able to do something like that for many years, and so bringing it back to Rochester, hopefully able to see some familiar faces and maybe some people that we don't know. So
yeah, absolutely. So now that this is going on, what are we going to do here next?
So first we've portioned out our espresso and brewed it fresh. So we're going to set that to the side. Now for baristas inside of a coffee shop, you may be doing this a little bit faster, but in the case of television, we have a little bit more time to fill up in this segment, so we're gonna take our time. Our pour today is going to be 12 ounces in total, and as folks if you're at home trying to better your latte art, it's really going to come down to that temperature of the milk, how much milk foam you're adding in. We're steaming our milk to between 145 to 155 degrees. In training, we're able to teach baristas to do so by touch alone, so you don't necessarily need a thermometer. Pouring directly into the center of that espresso, and we're going to try to find a better angle so that everybody can see, but making big circles all the way around, and then once that cup is about halfway full, we're going to bring our pitcher down as close to the surface as we possibly can, and with that, we're making stacks into the cup, placing each stack into the place previous of it, and then drawing through all the way. So this is what's called the stack tulip, and we're going to kind of get it as close to the edge that we can. A little harder to see, but if you can imagine, there is like leaves silhouetting that final stack of a tulip at the very end. And yeah, that's one design that we can do. And since we have a little bit of time, we might try to do one more.
Right. Is there a certain either brand of espresso or milk that maybe makes it a little bit better, or is it all kind of the same?
Some people tend to prefer whole milk because the fat content is a little bit higher. It can increase some of that milk foam density and thereby increasing some of your contrast. At the end of the day, it's not going to play the biggest factor in the quality of the latte art necessarily, but the barista themselves may be able to, it's maybe more pliable, or they enjoy working with it a little bit more.
Right. Well, that makes sense. Well, hey, as we get this ready, we do got to get to a break. We'll get the second one after that.
Sounds good.
Still got